So many people may not be aware that the sport of basketball's roots are heavily embedded in Canada. Dr. James Naismith was a Canadian who invented the game 100 years ago by hanging a peach basket on a gym wall. After some unsuccessful attempts to modify soccer, football, and lacrosse for the confines of the gymnasium, Naismith decided to analyze the qualities he wanted in an indoor sport. He needed a large ball enough to be caught and thrown easily. Since he did not want tackling on the hard floor, he declared that players could not run with the ball, known as traveling today. An elevated goal added a challenge that emphasized skill rather than sheer strength. One by one, Naismith systematically thought out the elements of his new game. On December 21st, 1891, Naismith posted 13 rules to the game on the school's bulletin board and nailed 2 peach baskets to the gym balconies. The first game ended with a score of 1-0, a far cry from the NBA scores of today. So now we're going to talk about the rise of Canadian basketball players. The best Canadian basketball player to ever play in the NBA is Steve Nash. He was drafted by the Phoenix Suns in 1996, 15th overall, which at the time was the highest a Canadian was ever picked. Steve Nash went on to win the MVP award in 2005. He also won in 2006, making it the first Canadian to win it back-to-back. A great milestone for Canadian basketball is the 2013 and 2014 NBA draft. 2013, Anthony Bennett was the first ever Canadian to be drafted first overall. He was drafted and picked by the Cleveland Cavaliers. The following year, Andrew Wiggins was selected number 1 overall, again by the Cleveland Cavaliers. However, he was later traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves. The same draft, Nick Stauskas was selected 8th overall by the Sacramento Kings. Tyler Ennis was drafted number 18 by the Phoenix Suns. And lastly, Dwight Powell was selected number 45 in the second round by the Charlotte Hornets. So now we're going to talk about the history of Canadian basketball teams. In 1996, there was 2 franchises that were drafted in Canada. Number 1 was the Vancouver Grizzlies and, of course, the Toronto Raptors. So the Vancouver Grizzlies lasted an unflattering 6 seasons in which they won only 28% of their games. They won 101 games and lost 359 times. They have the lowest winning percentage for a franchise in NBA history. They never made the playoffs, never produced an all-star, and never fully connected to the community. The team's tenure was defined by poor management, bad contracts, and missed draft opportunities. As the day passed in the spring 2001, the Vancouver Grizzlies started to transition to relocation to Memphis. However, there was a potential relocation cities where the St. Louis, Anaheim, New Orleans, and even the far-fetched idea of Las Vegas. However, Memphis became the most likely destination. Now, Vancouver Grizzlies are known as the Memphis Grizzlies. The Toronto Raptors are a far more successful franchise. They joined, as I mentioned, in 1996.
The first professional male basketball league was formed in 1898 and lasted only about 5 years. It was called the National Basketball League. It was brought back in 1937, and in 1946, the Basketball Association of America was formed. 3 years later, in 1949, the National Basketball League and the Basketball Association of America were merged to form the National Basketball Association, which we know today as the NBA. The Boston Celtics was one of the first teams to be created in 1951, and by the 1960s there were teams all over the US. The NBA lost its popularity in the 1970s, but Larry Bird and Magic Johnson brought excitement back in the 1980s. The 1990s brought a new generation of star players like Shaquille O'Neal and Larry Johnson. Now let's talk about the introduction of basketball in the Olympic Games. It was first introduced in the Olympics in 1904, where the first exhibition game was played. It was introduced as an official sport in 1936 Berlin Games, where the USA defeated Canada 19-8. It is to be noted that it is the only Olympics ever where Canada won a medal in basketball. The USA has since dominated the games with 15 gold, 1 silver, and 2 bronze medals. The only Olympic Games during which the USA didn't win a medal was in 1980. Moscow Games.
And I have notified the Olympic Committee that with Soviet invading forces in Afghanistan, neither the American people nor I will support sending an Olympic team to Moscow.
In 1992 Barcelona Olympic Games was the first time that professional NBA players were allowed to participate. The first team was made up of the historical Dream Team, made up of peaking NBA players such as Michael Jordan, Karl Malone, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Charles Barkley, and they brought back the gold for their country. Women entered the Olympics 40 years after men at the Montreal 1976 Summer Olympics, where they came second to Russia with a silver medal. Their dominance of the games has not been less impressive than their male counterparts. They have won 8 gold medals, 1 silver, and 1 bronze.
So I'm going to talk about the players who had an impact in the basketball game. So all the players that I'm going to talk about are part of the 50 greatest player in history. So this list was made by the NBA in 1996. So let's start with Wilt Chamberlain. So he still holds many NBA records. Chamberlain is also famous for revolutionizing the game through several rule changes being introduced because of his dominance. Rules were changed surrounding inbounding the ball and shooting free throws. Let's talk about Bob Cousy. So he's one of the greatest passer and playmakers in NBA history. He's famous for his flashy moves. He changed the role of the point guard like no other. He was a pioneer of the game. His size and strength was not seen before, so it helped to create the position of center. He played a part in the introduction of the 24-second shot clock, as well as defending goaltending.
Celtics legend, number 6, Bill Russell.
So he played for the Celtic from 1956 to 1969. He won 11 NBA championships. His rivalry with Chamberlain was famous. He also has he was 5-time NBA most valuable player, and he played 12 times in the All-Star team. Also, fun fact, Barack Obama awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2011. About Michael Jordan, he has 5 most valuable player awards. One of his trademark is the fadeaway move. Plus, his 30 points per game is the NBA highest career scoring average.
Essentially what I'm going to do here is I'm going to be talking about the evolution of equipment, but I'm also going to be able to point out a few visuals at the same time with the help of highlights from this season, and I'm going to be able to pinpoint things exactly that I'm going to be going through, and those things that I'll be going through are NBA shoes past and present. I'm going to be going through technology that has helped officiating and technology that's helped the game as a whole. And finally, I'm going to end with the breakaway rims and what are they and how they have helped the league. So let's get into it. Let's begin with the evolution of shoes. Believe it or not, the league wasn't all about Nikes or Air Jordans or Adidas or whatever it may be. In the beginning, from the 1920s all the way to 1984, it was all about Converse and the Chuck Taylor All-Stars Converse shoes. These were the best-selling sneakers of all time, and still to this day. In 1982, although, Nike came out with their Air Force One, their all-white Air Force Ones. They were the first air-filled soles shoes and the original pumped-up kicks. They were an instant hit and made Nike the top-selling basketball shoe instantly. Because they didn't conform with NBA rules in the beginning, Air Jordans were originally banned by the NBA. Jordan wore them anyway and was hit with a $5,000 per game fine, which Nike sprung for. Michael Jordan, best player of his time, best player of all time,
decided to wear them, that was a huge thing for Nike, and that's what originally gave them the boost they needed to take over the league. Nike further enhances plays by creating shoes for players according to their positions. So essentially, if you were a big, they had shoes focused on ankle support, very important for bigs, and for guards, such as point guard and shooting guard, they had shoes that were lighter to focus on movement and agility. To move on to the different types of technology that's enhanced the game, to begin with, we're going to talk about the shot clock. There wasn't one before 1954. It's as simple as that. The lowest scoring game before the shot clock era was 19-18 between the Lakers and the Pistons. 19-18. That's not even a game. That's not even the first quarter in a game anymore. First quarters end up 25, around that area for an average game. The lowest scoring game since the shot clock era is 62-57. So nearly a 50-point difference. Definitely more entertaining. Let's move on to the next technology that has helped officiating. And this is the introduction of the instant replay. I'll give you a little scenario on how it got started and why it came into effect that year. In 2002, the Western Conference Finals between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Sacramento Kings. In Game 4, a Lakers player made a three-pointer at the first half buzzer. Television replays kept on showing that this Lakers player had his shot leave his hand after the time had expired. So when you see the shot clock, that I'll be going to detail after. When you see the shot clock over here run out, there is a red line that goes around the perimeter of the glass, and you can tell that the shot, anything past when that point lights up, if the ball is still in that guy's hand, the shot does not count. You clearly see this on television replays, but there was no instant replay at the time. So at that point, they counted the shot. The Lakers went on to win the game 100-99. If the points didn't count, obviously, the game would have ended 99-97. Those 3 points give the Lakers, those 3 points would have given the Kings the series. Instead, they ended up losing. The season after that, the NBA implemented the instant replay rule. Any basket or foul at the quarter-ending buzzer is automatically reviewed in instant replay to see whether the shot counted or not. Another technology has been introduced to help make the lives of NBA officials a little easier, and that's what I just spoke to you about, is the red light that appears once 24-second shot clock runs out. So here you can see a little video, a little highlight of how a player, this is for the Phoenix Suns, Devin Booker, takes a shot off with about 1 second to go. The ball is released before the red light turns on, and the shot counts. That's what we've been looking for, and that's what has helped the game so much. So you can see, shot, slow motion, ball is complete out of his hand, nearly a second more. Then the lights go off around the perimeter, the LED red light on the glass. Very nice. To improve precision, that the NBA has installed a sensing device on referees' whistles. So when they blow, the clock stops, and they have a button on the side of their waist to restart the clock, and they click that at any time in which they need to restart. Finally, breakaway rims. What are breakaway rims? Those breakaway rims are basketball rims that once you slam dunk or release or hang on and release, they bend and then snap back into position so that they can have a little give in when you're putting force or weight on them. Why is this important? Well, back then, in around the 1970s, 80s, there was this player called Daryl Dawkins, Chocolate Thunder. He shattered backboards twice in one season. And essentially, yes, that's very dangerous. But not only dangerous, it was very time delay, and it at times canceled games.
They're playing basketball
all around the world. To the beach.